Welcome to Athena's Listening Crew, where we hold space for women business owners, both personally and professionally. This segment is on She Did That, where women don't just dream it, they build it.
On today's episode, Rebecca Cutehands is a spiritual and intuitive guide. She shares Indigenous teachings from many different cultures and traditions and is honored by all those she has sat with and learned so much from over the last 30 years. She hosts ceremonies throughout the year and offers individual and group healings and teachings. She received a profound moment at the age of 25 when a rare nerve disease left her a blind quadriplegic that eventually shifted from what seemed like a curse into a sacred blessing. She has been humbled by this experience and wouldn't change any of it. She celebrates being a student of creation and looks forward to each day unfolding with her and all those she meets along the way. We hope you enjoyed this episode. And
And
yes,
yes,
she
she
did
did
that.
that.
Enjoy.
Okay, go ahead. Let's go. Showtime. Oh,
All right. Welcome to Athena's Listening Crew. Today we welcome Rebecca Cutehands.
Oh,
She
by the
is
way,
a
I'm Renee.
oh, and I'm Lena. Just got
Welcome.
really comfortable here.
Okay.
Um, so here we have again Rebecca Cutehands. She is a spiritual guide, an Indigenous teacher, healer, and practitioner. She does ceremonies, teachings, and healings, of course. She does individual and group sessions, and she just holds sacred space to heal others from within. She's also on the board of director of practitioners at the Mountain Spirit Healing and Education Center up there in Prescott, Arizona. And yes, so Rebecca, please
Welcome.
introduce. Welcome.
hi, friends. Hello, everybody.
And yeah, if you can share with us a little bit about your background, your history, about yourself, and how you came into doing what you're doing today.
Well, a little bit about myself. Okay, and how I came into doing what I'm doing today. Well, this year I'll be 54. So I've got we all have a lot of stories, right? And everything kind of weaves itself together in all these, we know and we believe in divine order and divine timing, but boy, when we live it, it's just absolutely really powerful. And, my upbringing of my family, I had the access of understanding kind of both worlds of like the ordinary world and then the non-ordinary world, with an organized space of um, just family and belief and religion and faith, and then again, family and an organized space and spirituality. So it gave me access to kind of both worlds on how I wanted to move and, kind of weave my way through life. And so when I was younger, I was a really hard worker and I was really driven. Um, and so at the age of 24, I kind of had myself a little bit set, I had my own home and a really good job in corporate, and kind of just thought in a relationship that I thought was very strong and powerful. Although looking, obviously, when we step out of it, wasn't so healthy. And found myself one morning just waking up with my sight being doubled in my vision. And I thought to myself, okay, this is really interesting. I don't really know why this is happening to me. And and then to just snowball it to 3.5 years later, from 6 weeks to me first waking up that morning with double vision, 6 weeks from that, I found myself a blind quadriplegic with a really rare nerve disease that they really could not figure out how I got in, kind of received it or got infected. They thought maybe a mosquito bite, they were just kind of reaching, for some answers because my situation was so kind of rare back then. It's over 30 years ago. And so, well, about 30 years. And so from there, oh my goodness, the lessons. And I'll tell you, my mom being such a positive reinforcement in my life for just positive thinking and trusting, every single moment really affected me in those moments because she was like my cheerleader, like just
Yeah.
there at my side every single day, caring for me for 3.5 years, where my vision would come back and be restored
Mm.
for a few weeks and then it would go back out again. And going from such an active space in my life of just running businesses and always in movement, and then to completely just stop and be laying in a bed cared for, I had a lot of time to contemplate, a lot of time to be like, this is very different than what I'm used to. And so I felt like this is a way for me to find balance because I did run. I was like the mama goose of like, all of our friends and family and just
Yeah.
doing and doing and doing for everybody. And so, and then my friends came back, to me and cared for me, in those moments. So it was so beautiful. And then I had a friend come to me that she had shared my story with a friend of hers and her family, and that there was this Asian man who did this just immense healing, but he hadn't worked with anybody in a while. He doesn't go out there and like do this on a daily practice. And he had said that he wanted to meet me, that there was some sort of connection with us. And so, so very grateful for you, Bill. Thank you very much. So he did. He came over to my home and within literally about 6 or 7 minutes in front of family and friends, brought my vision back, restored, better than it was ever. And it was a very emotional moment for all of us, including myself. And he dedicated a year of his life, every few days a week, coming over and really connecting um, the channels and the meridians within my body to get my body kind of up and moving again. And it was
Hmm.
so beautiful and so powerful. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, how could I not want to dive in to what he is doing? I mean, he's a
Yeah.
master of 15, 16 different arts, raised in his culture since he was six to be taught this medicine. But I just thought if I could just have an inkling um, of just what he is offering to me and what I'm allowing myself to receive in this moment, it was just so powerful. And so it was really kind of laid the grounds for me wanting to go out and tend to others and not to help them um, and not to kind of like heal them by the thought of thinking something's wrong with them. Bill had made that very clear to me in the beginning. He's like, there's nothing wrong with you right now. You're a perfect divine, being of creation. But your necessity of spirit of movement is what has called me in. So I'm going to come and I'm going to guide you. And so it really humbled me in a space of his ego, especially. And it really allowed me to stand on a foundation of mine
Hmm.
ever since then. So to not again come up to somebody and say, oh, I can help you or I can heal you, as if it's a judgment of that there is something wrong with them. And so I think, um, stepping over that barrier immediately laid the foundation in my service to
And
be very respectful to one another.
so interesting. And talk about what a turning point you had in your life. I mean, we all have these turning points, but that is a major turning point to go blind and a quadriplegic and be able to get that back and just that journey alone of recovering, if, so to speak, quote from that,
Yeah.
and just that a change in your mindset through that the whole journey took you through.
It really
Amazing.
did. And so from there, I just started as much as I possibly could because it was a slow process, right? So 3.5 years in that space.
Hmm.
And then with working with him, slowly coming back into my body. And so, but I'm like this force. I could feel myself laying there. I was getting so excited. The first little movement I seen in my body with my toes or my fingers, and just being able to, I mean, like literally, you guys, it's like you bringing your hand to your mouth to feed yourself. It was like, what an accomplishment. So when people say,
All the
have you
things that
ever,
we
how,
take advantage, like I took advantage for. I don't, yeah.
Take for
yeah,
granted.
and it's
Yes.
so
Take for granted.
weird, right?
Yeah.
And so people are like, have you experienced a lot of success in your life? And I'm like, yeah, I can feed myself and wipe my own butt. These are like great
It's really
successes to me,
important.
And so it's those little things that are just like these daily activities. And even in my walking now, I have like my one because this affected my brain, because my body was actually trying to kill itself in this moment of me being sick. And so it affected my right side of my body and my left side of my body. My left leg and then my right hand were the first ones to kind of go numb. And so I still have a little tiny bit of a hobble in my walking. Um, I think, it's something that I kind of embrace fully. Part of my story I'll never forget because, again, I live it every single day with the things that I can do and the things that I can't do. And it's really beautiful to be able to really fully embrace yourself and accept yourself for the things that you can do and the
Hmm.
things that you can't. And so it's okay. And it's just really powerful and really beautiful to be in a moment now in my life where I'm really comfortable in my own body. And, I might hobble, and I might be the last one to show up, but I'm like, don't start without me. I will be there. I will be there. Wait till I get there. So again, just keeping life as light as possible. But yeah, I couldn't wait to kind of dive in to really kind of learning the anatomy of the body and how I would, communicate with it and how I would really find my way to serve it, which is totally different from how Bill does it.
Hmm.
And that's the whole walk of us being individually in service. We all do things, we're all pillars of light, and, which pillar we're holding up is just kind of up to us.
Yeah. So what okay, so I'm more, was it conceptual? I don't know how you want to phrase this one. Like, I'm an action person, right? Steps. Lena knows this. I'm like, okay,
Yes.
to get to C, I got to do A and B kind of thing. So you went from uh, a career, but a corporate job. So what was the movement? Like, how did you move into this space? Like, what was the first area you went into? Did you go to some kind of classes? Did you go like some kind of teachings? How did you start learning to move into this space? And what direction was there a specific area you wanted to focus on moving into the spiritual world? Is that right? Am I saying that
So
right? World?
yeah,
Okay.
yep.
Okay.
Um, so before I had gotten sick, I was kind of already in the spiritual world, things, when I would be like 9 or 10, I'd be gathering stones in the land and I'd be trying to save bugs, and trying to pray for if they lost a wing. I'd be like, please bring this butterfly a wing, And so I think it was ingrained in my spirit at a young age. And me and my friends, we would take ourselves to learn certain things along the way of us, being teenagers and exploration and adventures. And so I found myself, especially with one side of my family, having that spiritual connection and that indigenous connection. It really kind of allowed me to be really close to the earth and kind of understand the ways of like natural happenings. And for me
Mhm.
to pray to the sun and the moon and the waters and the breath was, it was just very familiar.
Hmm.
And so when I got sick, so I was running that spiritual and corporate world kind of just like my family, just like I had the drive for money, right, and success, and in that way, and then honoring the spiritual aspect of it, whenever I had time when I wasn't working. But when I got myself back into life, I still had that drive, but it was just different. It was a different focus. My
Hmm.
focus when I was younger, it was all about, um, because it was corporate, right? And so I was, oh my goodness, I want to make a lot of money so that, I can maybe retire early and I just want to be successful in that way. And I was very driven. I was a feminine energy, really
Mm,
pushed into a masculine world,
right.
running these corporate businesses. And I did very well there. Being masculine dominant, it helped me out very much. But when I came back into myself, it was like, okay, I'm very driven and I'm very focused. So where do I need to focus my energies? And I'm going to trust my spirit that it's going to guide me because my focus is no longer being successful with a lot of money in the bank. Money's great. I can't pay my electric bill with prayers. I wish I could. I would be acing that one every day. Um, but, but my focus was human experience and all the kingdoms of creation became my focus. And that became the way I personally was finding, the way of happiness and peace in my own spirit with accessing as many connections as I possibly could in whichever way possible. And so that found me because I kind of pushed that out there like that with no hold on anything, no control on anything. It was just open yourself up to all that is. And I found myself being placed in these moments where it was like, okay, here's some teachings. You're going to go through this course and you're going to go through this course and you're going to go through this course and I have certificates and I have documents of all my schooling and I don't place them on the wall. It's like, those were the things to teach me where I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very grateful for them because they got me where I am right now. So I just kind of dived into that. I really wanted to know about my body. I realized that at almost 30 years old, you know, I was I was like, what's a spleen? What does that do? And what's a thymus? And I'm like learning about my own body that I'm like walking around with every day. I'm like, Bill would say these things to me, and I'm like, do I have one of those? And he's like, yes, it's in your brain. I'm like, it is. So I just found I found the human being so amazing. I'm like, oh my God, we're just created with this beautiful precision and perfection where if one little thing goes off a few numbers, we could experience this and just everything. It was so powerful for me. So I just started diving in there, but then I also had the spiritual aspect. So I would be invited to a lot of um, spiritual gatherings and indigenous gatherings and where most people would not. So I found myself being placed in these moments that were very unique. Um, and so again, I just felt very, very blessed. There's been so many times in my life where I literally just say that. I could say that on a daily basis, actually. Sometimes I just hear it rolling around in my brain because I don't even have to speak it anymore. I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed. And so that's what I did. I found myself, involved and enthralled in all these different courses and teachings. And because you guys, honestly, I laid in a bed for 3.5 years. I had
Yeah.
a lot of making up to do.
Especially how active
I
you
was
were.
like, and once I could get in that wheelchair, I was like, okay, I'm rolling. Now I couldn't walk. I couldn't roll. Now I'm rolling around. Now I'm hobbling around. And so I was so ready to just get up and do life again. I felt like it was the second course, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
The second course to a really good and adventurous meal. I was like, ooh, what are we gonna do? And so yeah, it's been an adventure ever since.
Okay.
And how did you get, now that you found this, I think it's your calling. So, um, to then turn it into a living in this
It's funny,
new
when you start
course.
out these endeavors, people are like, you're going to try to make money. How? Like doing what? You know,
Yeah.
um, People again from the ordinary world, it's that space of which is so beautiful because both worlds feed us. I have to have both wings in both worlds. I can't just walk the spiritual world. That would have me lopsided and unbalanced. And as a Libra, I cannot handle that, right? So, or I will not have that anyways. Um, so I just didn't listen to the dream stealers, about, well, you got to be realistic. You've got to be realistic. You've got to be realistic. And I thought, well, I'm going to be realistic, but in the way that I want to be realistic. And I thought to myself, I go and I sit, over the years of being, in my situation, being a quadriplegic, I went to doctors and I talked with them and I shared with them and they gave me obviously as much time as they could,
Hmm.
because again, they were watching my progress over the years, right? And I thought to myself, wow, I'm just talking with them. They're really not giving me anything back. They're just listening to me, but it feels good to talk to somebody. Um, And I want to do that too, right? So I thought to myself, well, why wouldn't I be a spiritual medicine doctor? Why would that be so bizarre for people, right? And then I would see these people that, had all these degrees and that were making this money. And again, listening in their way and trying to fulfill the client. And I just thought to myself, well, why don't I think that I could do that? And so a lot of times when we get into the way that we want to serve, we're afraid of judgment
Mm-hmm.
and we don't think we're
Mm-hmm.
worthy. We don't think
Mm-hmm.
we have enough. And so along the years, I just kept learning, like, even in the little, bio, it's like, I'm a student of creation. I don't ever want that to stop. I want to be able to find a teacher or a teaching in every single day of life. And usually I do. It doesn't matter where it comes from, whether it's from any kingdom, the animals, the plants, the stones, the humans. I just want every single day of life to be this place of education and learning. And I'm not afraid to grow. I'm not afraid to experience humility. So much of our ego is involved when we're doing this kind of service work, and especially in the place of responsibility, because you think
Mm-hmm.
you're responsible for everybody's healing and everybody's life and
Mm-hmm.
everybody's health. And so there's just been so many teachings along the way, and I've just allowed myself to not try to impress anybody, to not try to pretend I'm something that I'm not, just to be very honored and humbled and authentic. The way I serve is just the way I want to be served back. So I think in our teachings, sitting down with the elders, they tell us that we're all one and that I'm you and you're me. So why wouldn't I want to serve that in the most humble and authentic and just loving way that I possibly can? So just diving into that, and I thought, you know what, I can do this. This is beautiful, and I'm going to do it my way. I'm not going to follow the path of anybody else and try to become somebody else. I'm going to do it in the way that serves me. And I did that. I dove into and again, the people just came. It was like the people were just falling right into my path.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was really beautiful. And all I really had to do was just show up and be with it in a way that was just very accepting and really beautiful. And so that's just what I've done. It's just been really amazing, actually. Even as I look back on my life, I'm like, oh my God, I've done a lot of things in my life. And just the people that I've been able to sit with and the teachings that I carry in the Indigenous world um, are just they're just so beautiful. And some of those teachers aren't even here on the planet anymore. And so I feel, again, honored to be able to share them with the entire world of whoever wants to come and sit with me and receive them so that we can carry on the lineage of all of these gifts and these blessings that are passed
Yeah.
down to all of us, like a sacred recipe, that you
Mm-hmm.
finally get from your aunt that gives up the recipe.
And you do,
I
you
share
have
them openly
people,
and freely with everybody.
Yeah.
you have people that come from all over the world to come and sit with you and learn from you. Who have you had that's like from the farthest ends of the world, like who
Oh
traveled the
my goodness.
farthest or interesting?
Well, when when sometimes when people hear your stories and friends will talk about you, and again, I'm just so blessed people they are even speaking my story or my name to others as if it's a story of inspiration. So for me, I'm just like, really? Me? That's so cool. And and people have found me along the way, and I've done some documentaries and that kind of punched me out there to the rest of the world. And so I started doing a lot of long distance, especially during COVID time.
Hmm.
All of it because the documentary came out in January of 2020. And so it really just catapulted me out there to the world. And people just started calling, and my 20% long distance went to like 70, 80% long distance that I
Mm-hmm.
was doing. And so that really just got me out there in the world. And then that kind of just opened it up. And so I have people that will travel from, if they can travel and afford, um, to come here and learn the teachings. And if it's something that's going to serve them, I mean, New Zealand and Australia and Germany, there's just so many places people are just wanting to come to and learn something that's really heartfelt, and again, something that's really authentic. And it makes me feel really good, let alone the long distance sessions that we do. And the way that we can connect with each other is so powerful. Even in the session, because sometimes people will ask, how are we going to be able to connect so far away? I don't understand how this is going to work. And then something comes in within the session that actually restores their faith that we really truly are connecting. They're like, how would you know that that just happened to me yesterday or that just happened to me this morning? How are you knowing that? And it gives them that faith again to let them know
Mm.
we really are connecting from this far away. But then when they get to travel here, whether they're doing a healing session or they're here for a few days of teachings, it's just they soak right in. I mean, nobody ever wants to leave, which is it's a huge compliment. It's a huge compliment.
And I don't think, yeah, and I think I forgot to, because I just was telling Renee before we came on, I was like, oh, I want to tell this story too. So I'm just going to inject myself a little bit. But but I met you, Rebecca, through a mutual friend of ours, and you're right. People speak of you, I think, because you're so authentic and their experience. It's just one of those that I then tell other people, like, you just have to meet her and go where she's at. I cannot put it into words, the experience. But when our friend took us there, brought me to your land and meet you, and you have your little golf cart because it's a beautiful piece of land. It's called the Playground Ranch, rightfully so. And you're just like, okay, let's go around in your car. Like you were just so open. And I was just like, saw the inside of your place. And for me, who comes from the East and the West, I just always felt like I came from both parts of the world and I carried it and I couldn't find a place. That was one of the first places where I just felt like it encompassed everything that I've believed in and I felt, but I had such a hard time putting it into language, but I felt it there. It was just I just saw all parts of me around that place. And then when you took us around the land and then to watch, to me, nature speaks so much as to, and then to watch the disposition of the animals, to watch a bunny just lying and chilling and not moving. I'm used to them just running off. And then they're just like, hey, what? What you looking at? Take a picture. I don't know. So it was just like, I was just so amazed. And then it was, yes, when you're like, oh, I just want to show you guys this tree. And it brought tears to my eyes because I have been carrying around my grandmother's some of her ashes with me everywhere,
Mm.
who was she was one of my lifesavers. And I've been wanting to find a place for her because I've never gotten to her funeral. And I just wanted to have a ceremony with her. And I'm like, I don't know where to take her. And here, it just, when you're like, this is the grandmother tree. And I'm like, oh, oh my God. Okay. I know you don't know me, but you're like, yeah. And anyway, long story short, I brought her back up and you just did a beautiful ceremony for her. And I couldn't tell you how that just brought it full circle with me with my grandma. So, yes, it is an absolute experience. And you haven't gotten rid of me since. I've been showing up
Hang on.
ever since. Okay.
To
So,
bring
yes, and
grand.
you did a beautiful ceremony. And it just completed a huge part of me. It did heal a big portion of myself and my relationship with her that I got to reconnect. But anyway, since then I've just been showing up at your door. Like you can't get rid of me at this point. So yeah, I just wanted to share that
And it's really
story.
beautiful. Your grandmother, she has no problem. We spoke about this last time you were here. She's like, can you please bring me some flowers in the next few days? I'm like, sure,
Yeah, she's
grandmother.
very
Oh, hey, you know
specific.
that?
The color.
Yeah, right. Like that sculpture that my sister-in-law sent me. She's like, yeah, I would like that over by my area. And I'm like, oh, okay, okay, grandmother.
Yeah. When I met you, when I
So,
showed up that morning and you were in pink, and I was like, that's my grandmother's favorite color. And she had a phenomenal way of growing roses. even because she's from Pennsylvania, even through the winter, I don't know how she kept them alive or then they sprung up again during spring. But, um, and there you had this bowl of beautiful roses, like pink roses. She goes, oh, yeah. And she's very specific with how many she wanted. And I was like, great for her. I'm glad she's like, so yeah,
Yeah,
it
I
was
love
just, it
it.
was really great.
And thank you, Lena, again. Thanks for bringing her here. It's a blessing for sure.
But yes, you do. It was really very genuine, very real. And you're so open and really good at what you do. So just wanted to
Thank
share
you,
that.
friend.
So take a little shift going back to that question where you started talking about that the path you took to start your own business, the own career. Did you, as you were going through this whole journey, was there someone, were you just trying to figure out as you went, or did you have some kind of mentor, or like who did you find anyone that kind of would help you along this entrepreneur path?
Um, when I was in my wheelchair, um I ended up meeting my husband. I mean, I knew my husband before. I had gone through my little space of my story, but just like an acquaintance from other friends, hi, bye, and hi, bye,
Hmm.
And then when he had knelt down, we were at a wedding for our friends, the same friends that I knew him from. And when he knelt down in front of me that day to talk with me, I had felt something in my heart and I was like, oh my goodness, this is interesting. And when you're in a wheelchair, you're just not thinking, oh, who's going to love me in a wheelchair? Who's going to, and it was just so beautiful. And 25 years later, we just celebrated our 25th anniversary this January. And so seeing where, he was coming from and where I was coming from, we really had nothing monetarily to give to each other. The only thing that we found was love, and that has built us a kingdom. And so when we went from Ohio, which is where, I am from and where we found each other, where this whole experience, has happened, we traveled out here to Arizona. And I had told him, listen, I have a calling to go to Arizona. My spirit is being called there. And he says, babe, I'll follow you to the ends of the earth. And I was like, okay, well, you only have to go to Arizona. It's pretty far from Ohio, but this is a good start. And so we came out here and, in the space of this journey, we were here for about a year and a half. And I had met this woman at like an art expo, like a little fair. And she was talking about creating this co-op, like a cooperative full of healers and readers and artists. And she said, would you want to be a part of anything like that? And I was like, yes, that is my main focus. I wanted to be able to start like a self-healing retreat. And I can't do that all by myself. I would love to be a part of that. Let me know whenever you get that going. And like me, she's very driven, also in her place of service. And she called me like a few days later to go and look at a place. And again, that's what has formed Mountain Spirit Co-op. And so starting with 7 of us, and it really gave us a place of, we were inside of a building and we were able to start the storefront and we had an office for us to be able to do our service work out of. And so that was kind of like my home base, and that business is still going. And then from there, we branched off and created a nonprofit, which is the Mountain Healing, Educational Center. And so in that space, she just became a really, really good friend. I mean, we just kind of clicked and we just kind of melded together with kind of the same, again, coming from the same place of integrity and authenticity and love, and really wanting to do the place of serving the community and then serving the entire planet. And so once I got here, because I was still in the space of teaching and doing some traveling and being able to sit with the elders, but we had that as our home base. And so that was kind of our little seed in
Hmm.
the community that sprouted out. And we were both able to just really support each other and everybody. We started with 7 of us in that group, and we grew to over 50 members, within a few years, and then ended up moving into a bigger space with a lot of healing rooms. And then COVID hit and everybody kind of shut their spaces down. But we're still going strong. We're just working out of our own little areas, and we're still doing things for the community and things like that, and in a place of service. And so along the way, my mom has really been again, a pillar in my life. She's just always been there, for me since the beginning of, being in the hospital with me for the 3 months I was in there, and just every single day taking care of me while she went to work. And, so my mom's really been a really beautiful and positive, just gift in my life. Thank God for her, and just kind of, again, guiding, along the way. But as far as mentors, like pushing me or guiding me through these, I just, again, listen, I have so many, it's countless. There'd be a list after list, all the elders that I have gotten to sit with and all the people that would just really just kind of see my energy and say, hey, do you want to be a part of this? Hey, I have an invite. Hey, there's a special invitation. Invite only. I'd love to, introduce you to this. I'd love for you to come and, travel here to the reservation over here and do this. And just, and then we got the grandmothers coming from South America. I would just get all of these invites, and it, it was really just so powerful. I would just sit back and just really look sometimes and think, years ago, laying in that bed as a quadriplegic, if you would have told me that this is what I would be doing, um, I don't know if I would have believed it. And some of the moments were really difficult. You're going into moments that are not comfortable. We're very privileged, with how we live. And when you go into other areas and other places where they're not, it really teaches you a lot about what you have, even if you really don't have as much as others. Um, so I've been really humbled by everybody that has come into my life. So I can't really put anybody as a one mentor. I have many of them. I mean, I have been taught by 6-year-olds and 10-year-olds that know way more about certain medicine than I even imagined in that moment. And so, yeah, there's a list. We'd be here for a long time if I had to list all those mentors. And blessed be to all of them.
Nice, very nice. Um, you know, just a quick side note, like we always kind of talk about perfection. So here I am, like always kind of worried about like the AC going off because I live tiny, so I don't want the sound to kind of interfere. And then as you were just talking, the jets took off, and I'm like, and they're even louder than my AC, and I'm like, we just need to roll with it. The jets are flying. That's why. Anyways, I had to throw that out because I'm all trying to balance it, everything, and I'm like, I got this. And also the jets, it's Heritage Week, and so the jets are flying like right over us right now. But anyways, I digress, right? So I do want to swing back to the documentary. What was that, and how did you end up on it? And what's it called? And where do
Yeah.
we find it?
Yeah.
So again, just friends, right? Talking about me to one of their friends who did these documentaries. And he was looking for somebody who had overcome um, a moment that was kind of, filled with a little bit of, overwhelm and maybe a little bit of trauma, that had overcome this moment and is in a place where they feel good and powerful enough to be able to go out and serve. And my friends were like, oh, Rebecca Cutehands, you gotta call her, maybe she'll be the fit for this. And so he did. He called me, and we chatted for like over an hour, and it was really beautiful. He came up here and filmed the documentary, and it was really sweet. It was really beautiful. Again, I was able to tell my story, and there's other people on the documentary as well. But it was really kind of dedicated to that whole storyline. And I just felt very, just humbled. I didn't really even know what it was going to do for me at that moment. I just felt blessed to, again, I don't know, have people here and connect with other people. They were really cool. Him and his wife came up, just really, really beautiful people. And then he asked me to do another one after that, which was again about all these healers coming together all around the world. And this one was a little different because I had to tape myself. And that was fun because at that time we didn't have Wi-Fi here. We just literally got Wi-Fi like 8 months ago. And so this is something new to us. We're out here rubbing two sticks together to try to get a signal to send off far, far away, right? And and that was really beautiful. So the documentaries are they are called Tragedy by Design, and one is called The Healers that I'm in with everybody, and the Tragedy by Design, that is the name of that one, but they are Life to Afterlife is the actual documentary series. So if you went under Life to Afterlife and then Tragedy by Design or Life to Afterlife, The Healers is how you would find those.
Okay.
And it was very fun to do. Again, I love to talk. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. So they're like, can you talk for at least an hour and a half? And I'm like, I can talk forever. What? It's a really good gift of mine, but I can also pipe it down and listen, right? Listening is probably actually one of the best skills that I have, listening and hearing on different levels than just surface.
Anyways, so I'm trying to think. One of the questions we have, and I think you kind of answered it, but kind of like, what's like one of the lessons you learned the hard way that you wish everyone would understand before starting their own journey, like their own entrepreneur journey?
Oh, that question makes me laugh. That's good stuff. Good medicine. Healing and how did I learn things the hard way? Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not afraid to learn things the hard way. And I think that's kind of me personally. I think we just have to make sure we put on our big girl pants and know that there's going to be hard moments. And it's okay. It's okay when we learn those hard lessons because I've been taught, like most of us, that there within the battle is the blessing. Within the great storm is the life-giving waters. So, the sacred storm where the thunder shakes the foundation of the earth under your feet and rumbles across the land, and the lightning that can just blind you. It's so bright. It also carries the life-giving waters. And so I'm not afraid to experience a hard moment because I know something in my character is going to receive something, and there's always a gift and a blessing, no matter how intense, no matter how hard. I'm not afraid to falling down upon my knees and weeping and wailing out, to the stars and to the elders. I'm not afraid to do that. And so I think the moments where we think we're not supposed to do that, or we're being weak, or there's something wrong with us, and why didn't we manifest, and why couldn't we see that coming, or why did we do that? I I dropped that a long time ago. Thank goodness. I learned that again from the Indigenous people to just let me know, hey, there is no right or wrong. There isn't. That's a space that is not free. So you're going to trip yourself up along the way and laugh and smile at life and just be like, wow, that was hard. That was intense. That was wow. But look at my character. I found myself folded on my knees and dropped to the floor wailing 2 days ago. And now I've stood back up on my altar feeling very empowered and very strong, all because I allowed myself to experience a moment uh, that was hard and that pushed
Mhm.
me and that was intense. And that's okay, right? It's like to try to judge that, they give it to us in ways of teaching. So they let us look at it in a big picture. Like we wouldn't judge the Earth Mother, and they say that we are her. So when she's pulling in her storms and her sacred waters, and she's got stuff roughing up a little bit out there in nature, we don't stand back and curse her or judge her. We let her roll those waves in to the shores, and we dare not enter them. So we'll come back tomorrow when she's nice and peaceful. So, I along the way I've experienced many, many moments that were intense, and I can only imagine that I probably have a few more under my belt that I will meet. And so all I can do, honestly, and all I can just remind all of us to do is to just try to meet the moment in
Mhm.
whichever way we want. We created all these emotions. So it's like if I think that I'm not going to experience anger or fear, or intensity or pain, then I'm delusional, really. That's the illusion. So if anger shows up, it's usually there to teach me something. If fear shows up, I know it wants me to cross the road. I just got to pay attention along the way. So it's either friend or foe. I try to use all these emotions as an ally. And the elder told me one time, I was 22 years old, and this grandfather says, you can be affected by the emotions. Allow yourself to sit with them, but try not to get yourself infected by them where you become them.
Mm.
Try your best. If you can try your best to not do that, and if you do find yourself infected, try to bring your wings back to your heart, where your heart will remind you of unconditional love for yourself first. And so I've really utilized that teaching. I'm going to be 54 this year. I've utilized that teaching a lot in my life, and I'm going to probably carry it for the rest of my life, and I'm sure it will come up again.
Very nice. And
Beautiful.
and going back just a moment, I love the story of how your now husband, I don't know if you guys were married at the time, how he just followed you out to Arizona. Because that just really connected with me because that's how I became an Arizona native. My mother moved out and my father followed her, right, from Ohio, by the way. He moved out from Ohio. Yep.
Look at
I,
that connection.
I am
Okay.
like probably related to most of the northwest corner of Ohio. But that's, so that just when you said that, I'm like, oh, I know that story. But
Oh.
with that in hand, you guys been together for what, 25 years. How have you been able
Mhm.
to kind of manage your personal life with the demands of your business? Like, how do you balance personal and professional?
It's so funny. Back in the day, it was like, oh, when I was obviously in business and we were running the store and running the healing center and then doing my clients and then running home and taking care of the animals. And this lifetime, I did not have children. And so, but I had dogs, that was like, okay, this is good enough for me in my life, right? But it's so funny how I really had to sit down with myself one day and think, cute hands, you are your own boss. Why are you running
Mm.
like a spaz? You're like, oh, I don't have time to do that. Oh, and I don't have time to do that. I haven't had a day off in so long. And it's like, ew, what? Oh, but what? I didn't work for anybody but myself. So I had to sit down really with it and think, what part of my ego is trying to impress either myself or the rest of the world? That's where I dropped, so after a few years, it was like, oh my God, I'm like, I'm like making my own stomach turn by speaking like this. And then I'm telling my clients to do things where it's like, well, I don't want to be the false, poet where I'm like, oh, you got to take time for yourself. And, you got to do this. And hey, how about this? And hey, maybe try that. And then I wasn't applying it in my own life. And so it was really like talking with that twisted tongue. And I was like, that's ew. I work for myself. So where's the demand? The
Mm.
demand is only present if that's what I am feeding. And if I'm going to suckle off of that, well, that's going to have me running this rat race. I know that world already. And so
Yeah.
it was like, how about we balance our life? And so we balance our life. We just make it this big, huge thing because of within our ego of trying to impress and indulge. And it's like, I, wow, just by me sitting on a day and breathing out on nature, out on the land here, that is more than enough. That is more than enough for my input for all of creation and all of humankind and all that is. Me just sitting and taking a breath throughout the day. That's enough. So I think our ego just along the way will try to trip us up because it's a teaching. I have ego, but my ego works with me very, very closely so that I can always kind of be with it and say, instead of it's like, oh, look at what I did today. No, look at what we did today. It was so beautiful and remarkable. But I don't serve that place anymore with inside of myself. I'm not afraid to work hard. I work hard. Spiritual work and being a medicine woman takes me from one aspect to the other. I'm there every day. Every single day of my life, I pull in through my doors and on my phone sickness, depression, death, Suicide, addiction. I'm pulling in all of those places because I am a temple light carrier. Well, who do I think's going to show up? So I just open my wings and I just invite it all in. And it doesn't matter if I'm sitting with when we're doing a baby blessing out here and we're blessing out newborn babies, or I'm sitting down with somebody in their bed while they are dying while I'm doing hospice work. I am running every aspect of life all the way to death and beyond. And so I just try to meet the moment very light, without in the space of demanding um, anything to be a certain way.
Mhm.
I don't want to serve that way anymore. It didn't serve me. You know, when you look at your life and you're like, is this serving me? Hmm. Yeah, no, I think I'm good with this. I think I'm going to shift this around. And so I just did. I was just like, this is not serving me. It just doesn't feel good in my heart and my belly.
I think it's a good question. But like I've been a therapist for almost 2 decades and I'm an empath. So I take on and like other people's issues. And as a therapist, I hear a lot of the ugly of the uglies, right? And so trying to protect myself as an empath, so I don't take it on, but just enough to help them. So like it's taken me a while and I still have to learn day to day how to take care of myself. But for you, you sit everything you said, you sit with people with illnesses like hospice, those types of things. How do you protect yourself from not taking it all on?
So back in the day when I was younger, 15, 16, 17, and you're coming into this medicine, of certain earth religions, you're taught like these protection prayers and these boundary lines. And then when you sit with the elders, it's completely different. They bulldozer over all of those prayers and intent by reminding you that if you're building up a prayer, you're building the prayer up more powerful than yourself. And if you're building up a protection prayer, then we find you behind this wall. And they would, as they're telling us this, I'm like, oh my goodness, I see myself behind the wall. So then I'm what? I'm scared. I'm not trusting. What am I fearful of here? So they teach us to bring the sledgehammer, the big spiritual sledgehammer, and bang down the wall. And if you think that you need protection or boundaries, then utilize them. If that's where you're at in your work and your medicine, by all means, they're gonna serve you, because one day in the space of the knowing, you're gonna come into that medicine and you're going to be like, wait a minute, I don't, what am I asking protection from? Somebody's death? Somebody's sickness? I would want somebody to sit with me if I was sick, or an addict, or somebody who has a criminal record, or somebody who's dying. I would want, if that was my lifeline or life story, which I'm sure it has been or maybe will be next time, I would want somebody to sit with me without feeling like they had to protect themselves from me, because it's my story. It's not their story. When I go and down with somebody that's dying, they're strangers to me until I meet them for the first time and I crawl up in bed with them and they just become a family member immediately. And we find out and sit with them of how we can serve them to the highest place possible before they go to the star channel. I don't need a barrier in front of anybody. There's not an energy on this planet that I'm afraid of, because I am all the energy. I am the energy of light. I am the energy of shadow, and I am the energy of all that is. So what am I afraid of? Myself? So in other people's reflection, I've come to understand that in our ways of being with the Indigenous, that's just not something that they teach in that kind of a way. Um, and so it makes me feel really good. Energy kind of flows in and flows out of us and not through us, as we're not like just the conduit. A grandmother said to me one time, the energy flows through you as you. And I was like, oh, I got to sit with that one for a moment, because it was such a powerful affirmation. Oh, I just got goosebumps. And so it also then reminded me, oh, I am all these little stories of light that I sit with, even if I find them in a moment of hardship or activities that, I haven't indulged in this life. but like I said, maybe my last lifetimes or maybe the next few. So I just really kind of keep myself open and I'm not afraid because, again, I am the space of the entire channel. So I'm not afraid to sit with anybody. There's no energy on this planet that, or off this planet that, is going to affect me in a way unless I allow it to do that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
That's a place of great power, right?
It is.
So, and that's me. That's like my energy, right? So when these elders speak like this to us, I'm like, oh, 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 that's an ultimate place of knowing. Like, that's where I want to walk. That's how I want to stand on the planet. So now when I look at it, I don't look down at somebody who wants to use protection prayers or boundaries, or I did those things. I wouldn't want somebody to down at me. Because I got that little bit of information in the story from the grandmothers and the grandfathers, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Let me offer them a different way. They can walk to it or not. There's no shame seeds here. There's no guilt trip here. And there's no judgment here of one way's better than the other. My way's my way. It's not the way. But it was so beautiful that I thought, I can attain that space. Well, that's how I'm going to be able to serve everywhere that I want to walk into, life and death and everything in between. And that means if there's somebody that's experiencing a heavy energy in their home or a heavy energy in their life, or, we don't walk in there with we walk in there with respect to whatever the energy is there for. And so I think when we have that in the living and the dying, and then in those in spirit, we can do really beautiful and powerful things for each other and with each other.
So I'm learning from this is really just knowing who you are, like what attract and working towards that. Like that is what I want to be. That is how I want to represent myself. That is what I want to, and then being willing. Someone had said, and I probably said this before, it's just being willing, and that is the qualification that whatever it is you're seeking to do in this life and in business, whether it's a living, but bringing that true authentic and doing something that is authentically to you. Sounds like you know what you're able to take on, and you also know what you're able not to be able to take on.
Well, I don't decipher from the two.
Yeah.
I just am in a space of full acceptance. So when we can come into a space of full acceptance, it just means we trust. And when we can trust fully, then there's so many things that kind of become a little bit not necessary in those moments, right? So if I
Mhm.
become trust, then I don't really need to work on forgiveness, right? Because if I trust everything that's unfolding, well, what would I have to forgive then? Nothing from my past, nothing from this moment, and nothing in the future. So in the space of acceptance, within our perception, there's so much held. And I think that when we find comfort in all of us and in all of it, ooh, then the sky is not the limit. The stars are not the limit. We can go beyond those places. And I think that through life, we're kind of oppressed a little bit and kind of held down and kept to be scared, especially of shadow. People are always like, well, I don't want to talk about shadow. And if I'm going to learn any teachings, I just don't want to talk about darkness or negativity or shadow. And I'm like, what? Well, we have to talk about those things. Those things are not bad. So along the lines, we're taught, I can only speak to like-minded people. I can only be around the positive because if I'm around anything else, it's going to drain me or take from me. And somehow it's going to create, something that's going to be heavy for me. I invite that in every single day of my life. I'm just like, hey, y'all, come on over. The door's open. And so I create for me. Nobody else creates for me.
Mhm.
If I'm having a day, it's because I'm having the day. Nobody else has put me there. Sometimes we point the finger outside so much of ourselves that we just have to simply just turn the finger back on ourselves and be like, it's not them. It's not the world. It's not this person. It's not that person. It's me. How do I want to accept this moment and perceive this moment so that I can lay down prayer upon it and then move on? Because remember, there's pillars of light. Everybody's out there doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
None of us can be doing all the same things. So
Right.
we have to pay attention to our space of where we are, and everywhere we're standing is at the center of creation at all times. So I can't, and I don't want to be out there doing 50 million things and ways of service in this way. I'm just going to stay here. Um, and I don't keep myself from the world. I pay attention what's happening in the world, but I can't be of service if I become the very thing that I'm standing across that I'm praying for. That just puts me into a battle. It makes me become the duality of what I'm standing against and speaking of. And it's like, well, now I'm becoming it. So let me lay
Hmm.
that down upon the earth and let me lay prayer upon it. And let me just pray in this moment and then let me move on to serve the next. And so that's that's what I do. I don't keep myself, in a way where I don't know what's going on in the world and that I don't feel what's going on in the world. I can turn the TV on and be caught up in 1 second. I can cry. I can feel for stories and injustice and things that are happening on the planet. But I can't, well, I won't. I could, but I won't allow myself again to become the very thing that I'm reflecting in that moment. I have to be the very opposite, which is why I do what I do. And I'm not afraid to go down into these places that are heavy. I'm in them every single day.
Wow.
Great. All right. Well, for someone who feels connected to this episode and would like to connect with you, where would they find more information about you, or how would they connect with you?
Well, they can go to our website, which is the Mountain Spirit Co-op. .com. You'll find me in there all over the place with classes and events and stuff. They can call me, directly. I don't
Mhm.
know if you're going to be posting emails or phone numbers at all on
We'll
the
definitely
screen
post.
or
Yeah, we'll definitely
okay.
post some of
Yeah.
these links that we have, the websites in the show notes for you.
Oh, beautiful. Yep.
Yeah.
That's the
Great.
best way to find me.
And so you mentioned classes. What kind of classes do you do at Mountain Co-op, Mountain Spirit Co-op?
Well, through so again, Mountain Spirit is like that kind of that hub station, right? Where you'll find a lot of us healers and
Hmm.
practitioners. And so here at my home, which is the Blue Heron Studios, I teach a bunch of different stuff. There's a huge list. I've sat down with so many different cultures and traditions over the last 30 years, including, obviously my own. And so I offer all different kinds of classes and initiations and ceremonies. And I mean, on this land, we teach so much from, obviously, indigenous cultures being native and Andean and Celtic and Egyptian and African. I mean, there's just, Tibetan, there's so much that we do here all the time. And we're doing weddings and blessings and initiations of all different kinds. So if anybody's interested in anything like that, then they can just call me. I send them the list of offerings and then we just schedule it up and go from there.
Right. Awesome. All right. Any other questions, Lena, that you may have for her?
No, you did a
Because
great job, Renee. I think
yeah,
I was just more.
I think Rebecca did a great
I was
job of
finding
explaining. We didn't
myself
even have
being
to.
was like, sorry, guys.
Well, I think like a lot of the questions we had, I was like, oh, we don't need to ask this because Rebecca's already bringing all this up. So
Ah,
I think, oh, thank you, Rebecca. You made our job easier. But any
well, ladies,
last,
like, honestly, you ladies would be on my list, right, of mentors because, bringing something like this on, into the planet and in this moment, especially, just giving people a platform to kind of share, themselves in little tiny pieces. There's a teaching in everything that we do, and we're constantly serving. I mean, I can barely go to the grocery store without wanting to, give a message to somebody at the store. I'm like, now, Spirit, I'm trying to buy some avocados, So
You're a
we're always
24/7
constantly doing,
operation there, Rebecca.
right? We're
So it's
24/7, but
like,
I can honestly just thank you ladies so very much because what you're doing again, I mean, you mentorship, right? So you guys would be on that list as well because you're both two very powerful women and balancing two worlds, right? Is again just really beautiful having your wings dipped in both. And that's absolutely just again the admiration just flows from my heart to you both, and so thank you so very much for giving me this time and this platform today to share.
Well, we are absolutely grateful for you to accept our invitation. We are, as you can tell, very new. And, but yes, that's what it all came from me and Renee's conversation about opening up a space for women, particularly in women who are creating their own living and taking charge of what they want to do, being their own entrepreneur and their own creator of the thing that they want in service to whatever they want to serve in this world. So we want to give them that space to be able to tell their story. And you are definitely a gift of this world. And thank you for coming on and sharing your story and your information. And we're going to put it out there and hopefully, our listeners like, hey,
And just to add on
it
to what
really
Lena,
is me here.
yeah, to add on to Lena, it's also like giving that space for women just to talk about their journey, like
Yeah.
their selves, and also for us to learn off of each other. Like you brought it
Yeah.
up too, we're each other's mentors. Like just hearing someone else's story just helps us. Like, oh, pulling from it, what can we learn from other women's stories and what they've gone through, and how can we connect? Because sometimes, like when I started this years ago, I just felt like I was the only one. I had no one to connect with. So having that feeling of isolation. And so with this, just being able to tell our stories and then connect with others as well. So yes, thank you so much for coming on. I've definitely learned from listening to you.
Yay!
Yeah.
Me too. I learned even from listening to myself, so that was beautiful.
All
So,
right.
all right, great. Thinking the exit, I was like, I just blanked out too. So if you guys have any topics you would like us to cover, definitely email us at athenaslisteningcrew@gmail.com. Or if you are a woman business owner and would love to come on and tell your story, we would love to have you. So please
Yeah.
contact us there as well. So, all
I
right.
think it's the spirit. It's what you've been teaching, and I'm just kind of there's a blanket. There's the wings coming around because I'm so sorry. I'm just kind of coming back online. You can tell Renee's the left brain of this operation. I'm the right.
And the universe brought us together for like a reason. We each had our own reason for wanting to start something, and then we just kind of merged it together, and like I said, we complete each other.
That's right. That's beautiful. I love it.
So,
Absolutely.
Thanks
This
for
has
your
been really
time.
fun. You make it very comfortable. And when people can feel like at home and just kind of sink right in, through a screen, right, with each other,
Yeah.
that's
mhm.
just so powerful. So thank you for making it just
Thank
very
you. Thank you.
comfortable.
And that's what we want. We really want people to feel comfortable and safe. And
So,
yeah,
Well, you
and be
have. Thank you so
themselves.
very much.
All right.
all
Thanks
right.
for your time, Rebecca.
Thank
Cute
you.
Thank
hands.
you,
All
ladies.
right.
Have a
Bye.
great rest of the day today.
You too.
Thank
Many
you.
blessings. Bye.
Bye.